My name's
Thank
Alex
you.
Chapman, and I'm delighted that you've decided to take an hour out to spend some time listening to me talk about the value equation. So I'd like to welcome you all. I hope the weather is better there than it is in Australia, where we've been having floods and power outages, and gosh knows what else. Firstly, I'd like to take the time to thank you for attending this morning. And I would also like to thank the Teknologisk Institut for hosting today's webinar. We're so happy to be present in Denmark, and the certification course that you can take on the top value equation at the Teknologisk Institut will jumpstart your ability to focus on value delivery. And it will equip you with the tools you need to consistently and successfully deliver projects. There is a lot to cover this morning, so let's get started. Just a few housekeeping issues. We'll take questions at the end, so if you'd like to ask a question, just pop it in the chat window at the bottom of your GoToMeeting control panel. And I'll also be muting everybody now so that we won't get any background noise. I will unmute at my end, but you also need to individually unmute yourself at the end for the question and answer session. So, we're going to show you today how when you shift your focus on projects from cost to value, you automatically improve the success of projects. We're also going to show you how the top value equation gives you a learnable and teachable model to do this. Firstly, to define a project in business outcome terms, what the business wants, and then to define clearly all of the benefits available so that you can deliver them, and how to quantify the value of those benefits so that you can track them and then take action to deliver them as well. And also take action when you're finding that you're getting variances from what you expect the value to be. And then to systematically plan out all, and I mean all, of the changes that are required to successfully deliver the outcomes, benefits, and value. We'll show you how the top value equation links your project activities directly to the benefits that you desire to deliver for every project and every time. We're also going to show you how change management and benefits realization is made simple when you use the top value equation. And finally, we're going to give you a taster for how the top tools, techniques, and processes work in practice. And most importantly, how to define what you desire to achieve in clear value to business terms so that this drives your project to consistent success. We have one short hour to explain more than 2 lifetimes of thought and development that's gone into creating top, both my work and Jed Simms, and indeed all of the clients that we've worked with over the years who've helped us to define and then refine the top methods and tools. So these have been tested and tried out with people, and they've given us feedback to make sure that they're workable and practical and simple. So let's get started. Take a look at top, how it came about, and what it can do for you and your organisation. 3 things that we want to get out of today. I'm going to show you the simple, powerful value equation and how it improves project success. I'm going to give you an overview of the learn and teach philosophy of the top tools. And we're also going to talk a little bit about the value equation certification. But first, a brief intro, very brief. More than 3 decades ago, the top journey started with the question, why are the business returns from projects so poor? And the person that asked that question was Jed Simms in the 80s when he was head of strategy for a major bank and was trying to understand why the bank was investing a lot of money on projects but seemed to be getting very poor investment returns. Subsequently, Jed, as one of the top 5 global IT strategists for the Boston Consulting Group, he ran BCG's groundbreaking worldwide studies into what determines what organisations do and don't get value from IT. Jed was a systematic and outstanding thinker, And some of you may be aware that he died only 8 short weeks ago after a very short illness. But he was very clear about what he wanted his legacy to be, to transform how the world manages change and see his work adopted. About me, I started off in the late 70s as a programmer, a COBOL programmer, and I still can cut code if I need to, and eventually became a project manager installing banking systems for banks around the world. I got out of technology when I did an MBA at Cranfield because I can see that technology played a major role in delivering strategy, and I wanted to focus on strategy execution. And my personal interest, triggered by the work that some projects that we did in 2003, has been in researching and embedding brain-based learning techniques. And that, in fact, is what my legacy is about. Nathan, I'd like to introduce you to Nathan Kunkel, who's our leading top specialist in Europe, and is also the person who does all the certification training in the value equation here. Nathan was trained by Jed, and he describes the fact that he says he's got Jed in his head, and he has extensive experience, frontline experience in delivering projects. And what Nathan wants to achieve is to drive the value revolution. So, TOP has evolved over 3 decades, and this chart was something that I actually drew as a timeline, and we had it up on the board meeting of our previous offices, and it was about 5 feet long. We started off as conventional consultants, and we used to come in our early phases as the heroes. We'd come in, fix the problem, and then go away again. But then in about 2001, we decided that if we documented everybody, we could teach people how to do it. So that was what we call our guru phase. Then what we started to do is to turn it into downloadable ebooks, and we would coach the clients through the process as they use the documented materials. But now, finally, what we see the role of TOP and top people is as being able to accelerate the client so they can use the materials and get fast results by working with the clients and teaching them how to get the results really, really quickly. So it's all about results in the hands of the clients. And along the way, we won quite a few awards. And the one that we're most proud of is this Gartner Award, where we were selected out of, a very elite group of worldwide organizations who've been anointed a Gartner Cool Vendor. What we say is that it's time to disrupt the traditional big consultant model, because in effect, that's about consultants coming in and borrowing your watch and telling you the time. That's the traditional big model. Why do we want to do that? Well, the reason is because we feel that organizations have enormously skilled operational people, and we want to empower them. How are we going to do it? By equipping high-performing professionals of every sort with learnable and teachable tools, techniques and processes. So everything that we've done has been about allowing people to have things that they can learn and then to teach others and make it easy for people to teach others. And who? People just like you. We want to find people who are high-performing people who know there has to be a better way of reliably getting better results. What's available? We have a vast collection of ebooks and subscription websites with materials on it, but we are shifting to having print editions of all of our books on Amazon, so that makes them far more accessible for people, because some people like to read books. We have the 3-day intensive certification. We call it, the theory is it's the course. I call it a boot camp, because by the end of that 3 days, you will have learned more in 3 days, and we send people out of that with their head spinning. and obviously the top website, which is full of blogs and ebooks which go around the world. And also, we're in the process of speaking to both Cranfield University in the UK and Deakin University about them adopting the top value equation as part of strategy execution modules on the MBA programs. And that's a conversation that we're having at the moment. So, how does the value equation improve project success? Before I talk about the value equation in general terms, we have to talk about the topic of value because it really has two meanings, a broad one and a narrow one. Value in its broadest sense includes all the things that the business wants to get out of a project that's valuable. The outcomes, the benefits, and the value, the strategic contribution, the execution of a strategy, meeting the reasons for doing the project, and avoiding the downsides of not doing it. So that's value in its broadest sense. I will also talk about value or dollar value when we get to the quantification section of a benefit, because we also then say that benefits have a value because we separate that element out and we try to put a metric or a measure against it. So the contents as I go through this presentation will make clear what particular meaning of value I'm talking about. So, why do we need a new approach for projects? We've been doing them for a long time. Certainly, the whole of my career and many years before that. But the issue is that we're not getting the results that we need from the orthodox project approaches. And if you measure on time and on budget to spec, depending on which Google search you do and which set of websites you find out, the average is less than 40% are successful on time and on budget measures. If you measure a project by the business getting what it wants out of it, and our top definition of that is the full delivery of the desired business outcomes, the benefits, and the value, then the success figures go down much lower than that. Depending on who you ask, somewhere between 3 or 5%. I know that Standish has recently come out with a different way of defining that moves it up into the 30%, but it's still pretty low. And the problem is, we've been fixing projects for 2 decades, actually now almost 3 decades, and the results are still poor. So in 1991, BCG, the research that Jed did was showing 3% of projects successful if you measure them on business result terms. Deloitte came out with their survey in 2013. They're on this roughly the same measure. They came up with 5%. Standish published the chaos report as they do every year, and I can't remember what the actual latest figure is. I think it's somewhere around about 37%. I know Nathan's going to correct me on this. But the bottom line is, we've been trying all these things, project management methods, project management software, increasing number of specialists, just to get even a small project going these days, you can end up with a large team of people before you even get to, and what are the real people going to do? And finally, the business is saying, well, we're spending this money, we're about to invest 3 or 5 million or whatever it is. We want to see the results that we intend. And the other issue is, it's not like we're short of bright people working in the project space, but it's not fixing the problem. Why is that? Why hasn't it made a difference? Well, the answer to that is that in order to solve the problem, you actually have to go back to how value is destroyed. And Jed's research, which was done for the Boston Consulting Group, shows why. Let me walk you through a hypothetical example where we start off with a project that's got an optimum delivery cost of about 100% and an optimum real value available of 100%. The first thing that happens is we do the business case, and up to 25% of the benefits that are available for the project aren't documented in the business case. And the reason why, one of the main reasons, is frequently all we do is we document enough benefits so that we can then get the project over the line in terms of the costs. So we do a cost-benefit analysis. Now, the problem with not documenting the benefits or identifying them is that if the business case is a contract between the business and the project team, the project sponsor, if you don't document the business case, then you don't undertake all of the things that you've got to do to actually deliver them. So you don't get them. Next source of value loss, 5% of the benefits are destroyed through scope changes. Now, actually, I've always looked at this. It's on average. I've always looked at this and says, I've seen projects, many projects, where a scope change has meant that you might as well stop because you've actually now destroyed all of the benefits you could possibly get out of this project. So if you're going to make that scope change, don't continue. But 5% is what the research showed. 25% of projects benefits lost through lack of post-project delivery follow-through. So they were there, but nobody did the stuff, the changes required to actually get the benefits and deliver them. And finally, 5% of benefits lost because they weren't sticky. I'm sure you've all experienced projects where you implemented all the changes, you implemented the new SAP system, and you were going to get rid of all the spreadsheets that were being squirreled around the organization, and you were going to remove all the access databases that people were using for their own purposes so that everybody would be using SAP. And 18 months later, you find that they've all gone back to doing their own things because the benefits were not planned and made sticky. So what you're left with is about 40% of what you really could have got. And of that 40%, 20% of them are late because there is an implicit assumption that we finish the project and then we start realizing benefits, when in actual fact, in many, many cases, a large quantum of the benefits can actually be delivered while the formal project life cycle is underway. You don't have to wait till the end. So we destroy value. Let's have a look at what happens with the costs. Well, generally speaking, if we were having dollar notes or euro notes, or we'd be taking 10% of them and putting them in the fire because we literally burn them through failed projects. The next thing is that despite the fact that all a system is a collection of automated processes done by computer, which messes in with manual processes done by people, so many times what people do is that they don't simplify the process before they start the specification of the system, and therefore, in effect, they automate things that they shouldn't and retain unnecessary complexity. And that on average costs about 20%. Rework things there will always be some rework on projects, but the unnecessary rework that could have been avoided generally is, the research shows, accounts for about 15%. And then finally, about 15% of the extra costs are due to budget overruns. So all of that adds up to about 160% of what the original delivery costs could have been turns into actual. And that data came from the Boston Consulting Group studies, but it was updated by Jed over the years, and he didn't find that the numbers had materially changed. So, why are we not successful with projects? Because we don't focus on the value in the first place and articulate it clearly before we start the project, and then we vaporize value by time and cost overruns. But one of the things that surprises people, and I'll state it very clearly, it doesn't matter if you're on time and on budget if you shouldn't have been doing the project in the first place. If it falls into the category of what I call the ill-conceived, the misconceived, or the just plain dumb, you should leave the money in the bank account. So, I always like to quote this. This is the Cheshire Cat talking to Alice in Wonderland, and Alice says to the Cheshire Cat, "Tell me, which way should I go?" And the cat says, "Well, it depends on where you're going." And she says, "Well, I don't much mind." And the Cheshire Cat comes back and says, "If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there." And in the context of projects, one of the things that the issues is that you need to be clear of what you're trying to achieve. And that needs to be shared by everybody, the business and the project team, so that everybody can align what they're doing to that. So the other issue that we have is that we measure project success the wrong way. Surprisingly enough, if you on time and on budget measure success by the inputs used, not by the output results that we desire to achieve. This is like measuring the success of your new house that you've just built by whether you used all the bricks that you had bought. It doesn't make a lot of sense. The real measure of project success: did we get the desired outcomes, the benefits, and the value that we intended for the optimized inputs used? In other words, we set out to get business results. The cost is a function of that. And believe it or not, that also means that sometimes it's better to increase your project budget because there's an opportunity to increase the value. So in our house example, we're defining what we want to achieve. Our new house is a real home that will meet our family life needs for many years. My partner and I can relax, unwind, be with our family. The kids and all their friends have space to play and be noisy. If I got that for the amount of money that I was prepared to spend, then my project is successful. So the value equation teaches you how to define projects by what you're trying to achieve, the desired outcomes, the benefits, and the value as dollar financial and also in non-dollar measures. And then it teaches you how to achieve it. And that's all of the change activities required. So what it does is it wraps around other project tools and methods. And what it equips you with is learnable and teachable models, mental models and concepts, tools, techniques, and processes, so that everyone can do an excellent job of defining and then delivering change and strategy through projects. So on the Value Equation Certification course, after 3 days, you will walk out being able to do pretty much everything that Jed and I took 20 years to work out how to define and then teach people. And you'll also be able to teach others. And it will also, forever change your mental model of what a project is about. So let's actually look at the value equation in more detail. It's comprised of 5 components. The heart of the value equation is what we call desired outcome statements. These define what it is that when the future is working just right, exactly what they look like. And these are carefully crafted statements that go through a polishing process to get them. Your outcomes then deliver benefits, desirable consequences. Some of those benefits, not all, you can then measure in quantifiable terms, either in dollars or by other measures. So another measure might be something like Net Promoter Score, which is a measure that indicates how happy your customers are in referring you to other customers. Now, when you to calculate dollar value, you have to build a financial model. And in that model, you build it using value drivers. And those value drivers can validly change. And finally, change activities are required to deliver the outcomes, benefits, and value. And that is all of the change activities, not just the ones that might be divided up and allocated to your formal IT or technical project, but everything. The ones in the business, anything that you've got to do with customers, anything you've got to do with stakeholders, everything. So, outcomes, benefits, and value are 3 separate elements of value delivery, and you measure each one of them separately. Outcomes are measured by a yes-no answer. Did we get it or not? Benefits are measured by a yes-no answer. Did we get them or not? Value is measured against the model that you create. And guess what? Value can change, and it can change validly. We'll talk about that in a second. So, here's an example of a desired business outcome statement. And just to give you a little context, this one comes from a client which was Siemens, and they were servicing large MRI scanners. And when they'd go in to do a service call, sometimes it was warranty and sometimes it was not. And it could take them sometimes 3 or 4 months to actually issue the service invoice. And you can imagine how happy the finance director of a hospital would be when he got an $80,000 or $100,000 invoice 3 months after the service call was made. So the desired outcome was we accurately invoice all service calls within 24 hours of completion. The benefits of doing that, well, reduce working capital because invoices are being raised early and collected faster with fewer delayed payments. Reduce level of customer billing complaints. Boy, I bet that would be true. And reduce levels of invoices written off to dispute. If you issue an invoice 3 to 6 months after, and it's a very large invoice, you open yourself up into a long process of customers saying, how can you possibly invoice that? They didn't do that, whatever. So, and finally, we built a financial model, and the financial model showed that this was worth about $3,210,000 over 3 years. And what determined that value? Well, number of outstanding invoices, the average value of the invoice, the average number of days outstanding. So that's the first part of our value equation. And then we define the change activities to deliver the outcomes. Now, this list is not an exhaustive one, but it gives you an example of some. We've got to fix the warranty policy and redefine it. We've got to re-engineer the process for raising service invoices. We've got to develop an invoicing app. And we've got to train some service staff. So, if we look at each element in detail, desired outcomes define what you desire to achieve. This is our example. We accurately invoice all service calls within 24 hours. The desired outcome statements don't happen by accident. They're very, very crafted to define the new business as usual operational states to be achieved, which include everything which is important and exists after the end of the project, and when everything is working just right. Now, implicitly, if you're going to move from towards a desired outcome where the environment is working, then it also means that we're going to move away from the turnkey model of project delivery. Now, turnkey was a project model that was actually originally developed for delivering construction projects. Your turnkey projects delivered what's called a brick-making factory. You get the key ready to open the gate, go into the factory, turn on the machinery, and start working. It's a capability that's ready to operate, but it's not yet on and working. The top project model delivers outcomes. What that means is it's a working business as usual operational environment. It's working just right to the level of performance that's been agreed by the sponsor and agreed for the project in the business case. The factory is making bricks, and that factory might be making bricks to 2,000 bricks a day, but in the business case, what was agreed is that the project would hand it over when it got to 2,000, and then the business would take responsibility for getting it to 6,000 bricks a day. So we measure our success by the delivery of the agreed outcomes, the benefits, and value for the optimized costs that we intended. Now, the other thing is that once you've defined your carefully crafted outcome statements for a project, you can then link them to show path dependence. Now, this is something that you know about, but you don't know that you know about most likely. It's what I call tacit knowledge. The official definition of path dependence is it explains how the set of decisions and options possible at any point and for any given circumstance is limited by the decisions one's made in the past, even though the past circumstances may no longer be relevant. Or if I put that in English for you, every decision you make on a project determines what you can and cannot do both now and in the future. It's a concept that people know tacitly. There's a famous Irish joke that tourists ask one of the locals for directions to Dublin, and the Irishman replies, "Well, sir, I wouldn't be starting from here if I was you." One of the things about path dependency is that it allows us to show how different outcomes are dependent. Now, this is a real live example, and it comes from an Australian organisation called Census, which basically published the yellow pages and the white pages directories. And when this was done was just about the time where advertisers were still willing to advertise in that big, thick printed book that got delivered to every household in the country. But there was an issue because searches online were starting to take over. So Census needed to basically be able to achieve the outcome that says advertisers will see we provide them with high quality leads through the Yellow Pages search network, so they'll continue to advertise further in Yellow Pages listings, both online and the hard copy. That's where that organisation wanted to get to. So, in order to do that, the users who are searching for suppliers had to find Yellow Pages provides them with appropriate and relevant information to select a business. So in other words, they would look up either online or in the book, and they would find the people and be happy that they'd found the right plumber or the right handyman or dog groomer or whatever it was that they were looking for in their local area. What's required to achieve that? Well, we have to enhance the people skills and the processes so that we can measure and test and monitor the capability to constantly improve the results. And what else is required? we've got to grow the usage of the listing data that we've got online so that third parties access our listing data, and we encourage them to do that by sharing revenue rather than setting up competing online directories. What have we got to achieve that? We've got to replace an end-of-life search application, the technical platform, with something that's scalable and configurable, because right now we can't do the people processes and we can't share listing data and stuff, and we've got to do that, replace that app so it's all seamless. So what you can see there is a path dependency. We can't get to 5 if we don't do number 1. Now, it's interesting because number 1 is defined in technical terms and number 5 is very definitely business terms. What the roadmap makes clear to everybody involved, because these statements have been carefully crafted and agreed and the wording has been wordsmithed and stuff, it makes clear to everybody what you're trying to achieve, how it all fits together, and what we've got to do to get started. A lot of people, project managers, technical people, describe this particular document as the Holy Grail, because on one page you get a very succinct summary of what the project's trying to achieve in business terms. And also, there's another neat thing that you can do with it, is that if, for example, you mark up the path dependency map, and we do this quite often, with the dollars, what you can see is that 1, 2, 3, 4 are where we're going to spend money, but 5 is where you start to get money coming into the organization. Because quite often, you know, you'll speak to a project sponsor and they'll say something like, you know, what we want is 5. Just focus on that. Just focus on that. And you go, well, you can't, because you've got to do this stuff. You've got to do this very unsexy. We've got to fix this search app because we can't fix the processes and share the data that makes sure that when people are searching, they're always using our data. It's pretty neat. So let's talk about benefits. Outcomes deliver benefits. Benefits are the desirable consequences delivered by the outcomes. Here's an example of a benefit for our scanning maintenance example that we used before. Reduce working capital through invoices being raised earlier and collected faster with fewer delayed payments. Benefits are what the business desires to achieve, and they're what contribute to the overall strategy and results. And we measure them by a yes-no answer. And each benefit can be linked to the desired business outcome that will deliver it or will enable it to be delivered. So one of the things that happens is that once you know what your flow of delivery of your outcomes are, you can also start to see what the flow of delivery through the project is of the benefits. Let's talk about value. Value is the measured or calculated worth of a benefit. In this example, we came up with a little over 3 million. And the way you calculate it is that you have to build a financial model. Not all benefits may be financial, but all must be measurable. Tangible means measurable. So, for example, Net Promoter Score is something that a lot of organizations track. It's very difficult to say that if your Net Promoter Score increases from 60% to 70%, that is going to turn into 20 or 30 or $40,000 additional revenue, or even 20 or 30 or $40 million of additional revenue. But what you know is that you might want to measure it. Now, the thing is that when standard business cases are done, everybody looks at the value calculation and says, this project is worth over 3 million over 3 years. And you go, well, yes, it is. However, external to the project changes can validly cause the value of the benefits and the viability of the project to change through no action on the project itself. How? Because the financial value changes depending on the value drivers. So, in our case, some of the drivers that are going to go into our model are the total number and the amount of service calls, the percentage of disputed invoices, the cost of funds, and the average days to pay an undisputed invoice. What might cause that to change? Could be affected by economic conditions, improved product quality. Other projects might come along and do something. So, for example, in this case, a new finance director was appointed, and he looked at the number of outstanding invoices and he cracked the whip on his staff and he said, you go and you ring people and you get them to any invoices that aren't disputed, you get them to pay. So straight away that changed the assumptions in the financial model. Central bank might change interest rates, so that'll affect the cost of funds. Oh gosh, our model forgot, we made a mistake because we forgot to include write-offs in the model. That's a problem. So one of the things that you do once you've built your model is you use your model to track, and you use your model to track from the very day that you build it. Change activities are everything that's required to deliver the outcomes, benefits, and value. And this is all change, everything that's required. So that could include the workload in the project, and it also includes all of the workload in the business areas as well. Let's talk quickly about the learn and teach philosophy of TOP and what the certification course is going to teach you. Generating a value equation is a step-by-step process. And basically, it starts with defining outcomes, identifying benefits, quantifying financial value, identifying the change activities, and building the outcomes roadmap. And that then produces workings which can feed into tracking financial value, developing your workload delivery and the costs of it, and planning the actual delivery. Each tool, technique, and process is designed to define and refine the value equation. So it's an iterative process. And in the tools and techniques, there are engineered thinking techniques. These are accelerated learning techniques which teach you how to increase the speed and quality of the ideas that you develop. They're very simple, and all that they do is they replicate consciously what your non-conscious brain is doing automatically. So one of the things we say, it's important to do them exactly as they're explained. There are 10 of them, and I'd love to have time to go through all of these with you, but I'll just mention the last one, which is called musing, mulling, contemplating, composting, fermenting, or whatever you want to call it. It's also known as the Pooh Bear technique because after the A.M. Milne character Winnie the Pooh, who says, sometimes I sits and thinks, and sometimes I just sits. To discover what we want to achieve, we ask the right question. We've got two people, and the first person says to us, I want to lose weight. So we're going to use the question, why is this important? Doctors told me to for my health. Why is this important? I ask it again. I'm worried about the blood test results. Why is this important? I want to be healthy so I can enjoy my grandchildren. Okay, all right. What about our second person? Ask them, take them through the same questioning process. Want to lose weight. Why? Why is this important? I feel like I look very drab and I'm in a rut. Why is this important? Because I want a new image. Why is this important? Because I want to increase my confidence for the new job. So when we come to frame our desired outcome statements, which start with the phrase, when I'm successful, our first person says, I have tons of energy to enjoy doing things with all my grandchildren as they grow up. Our second person says, I feel confident and presented in my new job. Now, the interesting thing about this is that they both said exactly the same thing, but they both were trying to achieve utterly different things. And if you were the project manager developing a project plan for person A and for person B, you would come up with a very, very different list of activities. I think you would. So how do we get all the stuff out of people's brains and onto the page? Well, we use the Oracle and Scribe questioning technique, which I've just run you through previously. And that census example that I walked you through before, where they were looking at the search platform, came out looking like this. This is a real example. And it looks like a bowl of spaghetti, a tangled collection of thoughts and ideas. And the reason why is because that's the way the brain stores it. But then what we do is we use the jigsaw puzzle sort. And we start to group things and sort them so that eventually we can then turn these words and phrases into the outcome statements that turns into this. Now you've got something which has come out of people's heads, which was unstructured and with people having different understandings of what they wanted. Now we've got something that we can share. It codifies the knowledge. So let me just talk you through quickly those two terms, tacit and codified. Tacit is knowledge that's stored in people's heads informally. It's unstructured and it's hidden. Comprises the bulk of what every person knows. Codified knowledge has been articulated and expressed and recorded so that you can communicate it, store it, share it, and distribute. What TOP teaches you to do is to codify all the knowledge from developing your value equation so it's shareable. What that means is that instead of everybody having a piece of the puzzle in their head, now everybody's got the same picture, which they can debate and argue about and discuss, and which they can all use to align all of the activities they undertake to that picture. Just quickly, the next model that we use is the benefits funnel. And it's quite simply designed to maximize all the benefits by taking you through a process of asking you, what will this do for our customers? What will it do for us competitively? What will it do for us in terms of our capability? How will we become more productive? What is the financial impact? And does it reduce risks? We teach you how to define benefit statements very precisely and also to ensure benefits will actually be delivered by the project. Because one of the things that I showed you on that earlier slide was that up to 25% of the benefits are missed in the business case. It's the greatest destroyer of value. So if you just find all the benefits, you will improve your results. Now, I know this slide looks scary. Unfortunately, there's no way of making it unscary, but this is what the financial value calculation model looks like. And we teach you how to build this. We teach you how to create a transparent, trackable model where the calculations are clear and which starts off with a do nothing section, shows what the project is going to change. Then you start to track the results from very early on, well before even your business case is approved, because you want to make sure that you've built a model that's correct. The only way you can do that is to track real data as you get it to show that your model's predicting things correctly. Then what we do is we do a little bit of calculation to try and pull out, once the project results are kicking in, how it performed, and a variance analysis. So we're saying, in effect, did the project deliver? Is it given us what we expected? And if it's not what we expected, is it different? And why? And what have we got to do about it? The change identification framework, this is the last of the main models I want to walk you through. We start with the desired outcome. Where are we going? What are you trying to achieve? Then we say, what is the current state? And we make you document it. We make you write it down. Then the first thing is, what have you got to discover? What don't you know? Because one of the things we say is that if you've got lots of contingency on your project plan, you should go off and get a small budget to get the answers so that you don't have contingency on your project plan. And then There are prepare activities to get ready and implement activities to actually make the change. And then this one's the one that everybody forgets. What have you got to make it sticky? What have you got to do to stop people not migrating back to those special little squirreled away spreadsheets and Access databases? There's another change model that we use, which helps you, once you've done your first cut of the change, then walk through the thing that says, well, we've got to change some processes. So if we've got to change processes, we may need some new policies. And we might need to change the skills and competencies of the people doing the processes. So if we've got to change skills and competencies, we may need to do some training and education. All of this is simply designed to help you find all of the change activities required. In summary, the value equation shows you how to define the outcomes, the benefits and value, and all of the change activities required to deliver those. It enables you to shift your focus from cost to value and vastly improves your abilities to successfully deliver projects, because now you're focusing on delivering something that's of value to the business. Just a quick example. We did an example for a B2B project, and the particular project was a major retailer in Australia came to one of the major manufacturers in Australia and said, we're going to do B&B, you are, and you're going to save so much money that you're going to give us a 5% reduction on all the product that we buy from you. So they started off and they said, okay, some of the things that we want to achieve: streamlined order invoicing processes and ability to track action and reduce claims. Once we'd finished drafting the outcome statements, and this project actually ended up being the one project that I can say is the largest in terms of number of outcome statements I've ever done, because we ended up with nearly 60 of them because it ended up being a transformative project. So we said, now our customer orders are correct with the right stock item, quantity and price based on a shared and synchronized price catalogue. Customer returns and claims result from physical damage only, i.e. claims for incorrect product, wrong quality, obsolete stock or other errors disappeared. Now these were two of the outcome statements that they crafted. When we got to the benefits identification and then the quantification of that, this project where they originally looked at it and said, well, it's going to cost us $20 million to do this for our customer, and we can only find $7 million worth of benefits. But then somebody said, do you know, our returns and claims are running at roughly 10% of our revenues. We do this, we should be able to get them down to 1%, roughly. Should be. What was that worth? Nearly 50 million per annum. Large number. So, certification. You can do the 3-day intensive course, I call it a boot camp, at the Teknologisk Institut. And Nathan Kunkel is the absolutely outstanding presenter of that. There's a certification exam on day 3. The certification course has a blend of hands-on exercises and practical theory, and we really love it if you bring a real live example to your certification course and work on that. But we have examples that we use. And at the end of it, you will walk out of there equipped to do value equations with your in-house organization, if you're an in-house person, or with consulting clients, and you will be able to teach and do an excellent job of that. So that's the end of my presentation. I'll throw it open now to questions if we've got any. You'll have to unmute yourself because I can't hear you otherwise. Have you got anything, Nathan, that you want to say?
I think it's been great. Really enjoyed hearing your presentation, Alex, and happy for the people who came. And to sign up for the value equation course or to get more information on it, go ahead and go to the Teknologisk Institut website where you can find information. But otherwise, I think it was great. Really enjoyed.
Okay.
Uh,
Someone's
so,
asked if you'll get the presentation by mail. I have actually recorded this session today, so you can have the hard copy presentation and you can also have the recording as well. Some of the slides I did have to rush through a little quickly, especially the ones where we had the Oracle and Scribe exercise. But that's an interesting example, and it does bear a bit of careful reading. So yes, we'll be sending that to you afterwards. Any other questions?
you're welcome.
Yep. Okay. All
Actually,
right.
I have a question. Can you hear me,
I can. Yes.
Alex? Okay. How does the value equation work along with Scrum and
Ah,
Agile technique?
I can tell you this exactly. That's a great example. So I've actually been through a Scrum process when we were doing our website. And one of the things that happen is that you end up with all these ideas, yeah? All these ideas are little post-it notes and sometimes you can end up with a whole whiteboard or a whole wall full of things. One of the things that you can use once you've done that, Scrum has a particular prioritization process, which is quite useful. But and let me just go back to this slide and I'll show you what you can do with it. Sorry, I'm just going to find the right one. If you go back to your roadmap, one of the things that you can also do is once you come up with the list of all the things that you want to do as part of your Scrum work, if you then sort them by outcome, it will help you come up with a different and better sequencing method for what you have to work on and in what order. So one of the things that, in my experience when we did this with doing some of our own development work, was that we had a lot of things, and then we realized that it would be better if we just focused, in effect, on our map, on this, on the outcomes number 1 and 2. And whilst the other things were easy to do, they were and weren't a lot of effort. They were unnecessary distraction when we really needed to focus down here in the bottom left-hand corner of our roadmap, because the roadmaps run left to right, bottom to top. So there was no point doing some things in terms of the Scrum while we were still not right with some of these things down here. Does that answer your question?
Yes,
Good. So it gives you
thank you.
another cast through prioritization. Any other questions?
I think we're good.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much for attending. I know that your time is precious, and I've enjoyed speaking to you, and I hope you've enjoyed listening to me. We will be sending out the recording and the slide pack to you, and I'd also like to thank the Teknologisk Institut again for making this possible. Speak to you soon. And if you would like to link to me on LinkedIn, please feel free to go ahead and do that. I'm always happy to start a dialogue and offer any assistance that I possibly can. So thank you very much.